Kia ora, good evening. Christopher Luxon's leadership is set to face even more intense scrutiny after a shock result in the latest One News Varian poll. The Prime Minister and the National Party slumping dramatically to their worst result since taking office. The numbers also showing the coalition government out of power. And Labour, the Greens and Te Pati Maori with enough to govern. Speculation's been rife over internal moves to oust Luxon, many in the political world keenly awaiting our latest poll, with the election only about 6.5 months away. Our coverage begins with political editor Maiki Sherman and the exclusive numbers.
The tables have turned on National's coalition government, putting even more pressure on the Prime Minister. Let's take a look. Labour is up a hefty 5 points from our last poll to 37%. National crashing down 4 points, now on 30%. That is a massive 7-point gap, with Labour in the lead for the first time in just over 3 years and National on the cusp of the dreaded 20s. The Greens are steady on 11%. New Zealand First is also steady on 10%, but the ACT Party has taken a 2-point tumble, now on 7%. Te Pati Maori, meanwhile, steady on 2%. And look who's making a move. The Opportunity Party is up 2 points on 3%. Let's move now to see how these numbers translate to seats in the House. National in blue on this side would get 37 seats. New Zealand First would have 13, and the ACT Party in pink gets 8. That is 58 seats in total, not enough to form a government. The coalition would be gone. Turning to the other side of the House, Labour in red scooping up 47 seats. The Greens would have 13, and assuming Te Pati Maori holds its 6 electorate seats, that gives the left a total of 66 all up, more than enough to put them in power. Let's bring up preferred Prime Minister numbers now, and another serious hit for Christopher Luxon, down 4 points to 16%. He's never been this low in our poll. Chris Hipkins dips 1 point to 19%. And look at this, Winston Peters keeps creeping up. He's up 2 points on 12. Chloe Swarbrick is up 1 on 6%. David Seymour steady on 4%. And look who's had a wee bump. It's Chris Bishop, up 1 on 2%. So after weeks of speculation over his leadership, on these numbers, Christopher Luxon and National are at a new low. Christopher Luxon in quite the funk, and not in a good way, with voters exiting stage left.
Oh look, we're not where we want to be, we need to do better, but it's also a very challenging and volatile time for Kiwis.
This is going to be a one-term government. I'm determined to make that happen.
And by the numbers, National and its coalition are on notice.
The mood for change is clearly growing. New Zealanders have had enough of this government. They've had enough of the negativity.
Luxon has faced weeks of leadership speculation with the party vote in the 20s, and while the One News Varian poll is rounded up, National technically registered at 29.7%.
Well, again, we're not where we want to be. We need to do more and better.
On Friday, the Prime Minister shot down leadership questions.
No, I have the full support of my caucus.
Adding, while polling could be better,
if we had an election today, this government would be reinstated. If there was an election held today, this coalition government is reinstated.
Well, on our numbers, the coalition would be gone.
Well, it underscores what I've been saying, as polls are volatile. Last week it said that we could form a coalition government. This week on your poll it says we can't.
Are you plotting to overthrow the National Party leader?
No, absolutely not.
Chris Bishop's demotion in the latest reshuffle suggested otherwise, and was followed by leaks to media indicating Luxon was losing support.
Obviously, some people have been talking out of school. That is not the right way to do things.
So has the Prime Minister thought to resign?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Maybe he has some faults, so do you, so do I.
David Seymour playing it cool. For him, it's not all up in smoke yet.
Well, it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, you know, some people are popular, other people aren't.
I told you we're going to turn your polls into confetti. Believe that.
The US war on Iran and rising fuel prices leaving voters worried about the economy. The One News poll showing pessimism has skyrocketed 21 points to just over half, while optimism is down 14 points to 26%.
They want us to get back to the people's basics, the fundamentals: housing, health, education, and the cost of living.
New Zealanders deserve a Prime Minister that's focused on the issues that matter to them. That's not where Christopher Luxon's focus is.
Axe drop in our poll follows the resignation of Deputy Leader Brooke Van Velden, though Seymour managed to get supporters out today.
4 polls this month, we're up on 3 down in yours. Guess we just keep working, hey?
Plenty of work ahead indeed for the coalition.
And Maiki joins us now. Maiki, is this the tipping point for Christopher Luxon's leadership?
Well, it certainly tips a lot more fuel onto the fire. The question is, will the caucus and the party hierarchy continue to back Christopher Luxon? So far, yes, there have been rumours and speculation, but no one has put their name to it in terms of a possible leadership challenge. And Luxon is digging in. He is essentially calling their bluff, saying he isn't going anywhere. So if anyone wants the leadership, they'll need to come get it. And they'll need to make sure that if they do, they have the numbers, because any risk of instability, of more leaks, that could harm the party even more and work against them. Now, timing is also a factor. Christopher Luxon is set to go to Singapore in 2 weeks' time. Shortly after that is the government's budget. So either a challenge happens now or they'll need to wait much, much later. Now, also worth remembering that we are still just over 6 months away from the election. He does have time to turn these numbers around. Also, this is one poll. Yes, there are other similar polls which show similar numbers, but if parties shift 2-3 points in reverse, the landscape again, it could change. The worry for those perhaps who are worried is the undecided voters and whether they might firm up their support in the meantime, because in this poll we've seen the undecided voter drop down by 2 points, now sitting on 9%.
Maiki, if it was election day, on these numbers, Labor could lead its own coalition?
Well, that's right. This is a white-knuckle poll, there's no doubt about it. But Chris Hipkins said today that he doesn't want the Labor Party to be peaking too early. He doesn't want this to be the peak, and so he still wants to see that party vote grow. Now, for more on what a potential replacement government could look like, a senior political reporter, Benedict Collins, spoke to the rest of the parties.
Our co-leaders, Marama Davidson and Chloe Swarbrick.
Supporters of all ages in Wellington today for the Greens' State of the Planet address, announcing plans to electrify our homes, transport and economy.
And an economy is not working if it is leaving people behind. That endless extraction on a finite planet is a dangerous delusion.
We're frying the ecosystem necessary for life on Earth as we know it. This sucks.
On this poll, the Greens would be sharing power, but what should they do with it?
Fighting inequality, taxing rich people more.
We need wealth taxes to spread things out more evenly.
Put policies in place that support us all during climate change would be very helpful, I would think.
Neither the Greens nor Te Pati Maori surprised by today's results.
New Zealanders' cost of living is going through the roof, and they can see that this government has taken its hands off the wheel and said, "C'est la vie, good luck."
I think it means, and it reveals what we're hearing out on the full of our obligation, our responsibility in the fight we have for our people.
A Labour, Te Pati Maori, Greens coalition would be absolute chaos. They would ruin and put a wrecking ball through our economy.
Another opponent thinks there could be an upside to this poll.
Well, I think if it means people take a harder look at the reality of the Labour Party and their friends, it could be a very good thing for New Zealand.
Meanwhile, opportunity is knocking.
Culture wars and cancelled projects instead of compromise, exploiting nature to make a quick buck.
The Opportunity Party edging towards the 5% threshold needed to get into Parliament, now sitting on just over 3.
We need to do things that are going to boost our productivity and growth as a country, but in a way that also looks after the environment. And no party is holding that blue-green space clearly at the moment.
A lot of parties with a lot to fight for as election year gears up. Benedict Collins, One News.
All right, Maiki, 6.5 months till election day, and from our poll, it looks like it's game on.
It certainly is game on. This election is up for grabs. That's what these poll numbers show. Look, in terms of Labor, one thing that does stand out for the party is that they would have to rely not only on the Greens, but also Te Pati Māori in order to form a government. That is a foot in the door for Te Pati Māori, essentially, to be able to bring about some meaningful progress for their supporters. But you could argue it is also a thorn in the side for Chris Chris Hipkins, because the question is whether the Maori Party is in a position to be a reliable partner. Yes, we recently saw the reinstatement of Maria Mino Kapakingi back into Te Pāti Māori, but there are still some big questions over whether or not they can all work together. For the Greens, I think the question for them is whether there is a threat to their support in terms of the rise of the Opportunity Party. We didn't see that in this particular poll, but it is worth considering. Now, looking ahead, Chris Bishop, he told Q&A's Jack Tame that he was going to visit Christopher Luxon this afternoon. They say that that is a usual meeting, but you can be sure that these poll numbers will likely come up for discussion. Exactly what that means will remain to be seen. Christopher Luxon will go back to Wellington tomorrow. He will go to post-cabinet where he will be questioned by the media. He'll also have to deal with the morning media rounds the first thing in the morning. And then on Tuesday, the National Party caucus will be back at Parliament and we'll have an opportunity to discuss everything at play. So it's going to be a big, big week for National and Christopher Luxon.
It certainly is. Maiki Sherman, our political editor.